Good evening, everyone. Welcome to LFC Transfer Room. I'm here tonight, joined by Clem, Kings, and Race to discuss this evening's result, which was I was prepared for an entirely different live stream. In about the 80th minute, where I was setting up the live stream, and it was 3-1 up. We were 3-1 up, and I thought, yeah, that was going to be a pretty straightforward stream. I was going to have a conversation about the frailties, the defensive frailties, but apparently we're going to have that conversation in a bit more detail than we would have liked. So 3-3 then in the Premier League's 37th game week. One more to go, one more match of Jurgen at Anfield. But until then, Clem, how are you doing tonight, mate?
Yeah, doing well, Mihai and King's race, but just disappointed, to be in the position we were at and not get the result. But let's talk about it. How are you doing?
We're gonna okay. Fortunately, there wasn't a lot of there wasn't not there weren't many things that were necessarily important from us tonight. It was just mainly we need to get it, get the season done, and then we'll see how it goes. So I'm not as angry as I would have been had we thrown this away in a title race, obviously. But we're gonna get into that. So, Race, how are you tonight, mate?
Yeah, I'm all right, but it's unfortunate we didn't get the result. These games are once we're kind of out of the title race. I mean, there really isn't. It's hard to, be get too excited for them. Obviously, you're excited to watch the team play, but there's just a level of competitive difference. That they have like tonight. Villa were going for. They have a Champions League spot to fight for, and we just really realistically have nothing. So just a difference in mentality almost.
Yeah, even though, see, I think it's interesting because if we were to have this live stream around the 80th minute, then we would have just said, we got lucky. It was the way it was, but then, yeah, it's you almost struggle not to be reactionary in situations like this, like these. But yeah, we'll get into that later. So, Kings, your thoughts?
I was going into the game thinking, there's not a lot to play for us, unfortunately. So I wasn't that stressed out about it. That doesn't mean I don't want Liverpool to win. And I think it's already been said in the chat, to be honest, the subs tonight just didn't cut it at all. Up to a certain point of the game, I can't say we were dominating. There's a few players tonight had off games, but we were 3-1 up and comfortable at that point, and then it just seemed to collapse. And it's wound me up a little bit, but at the end of the day, like Race has already said, and Clem, that it's a dead game at the end of the day for us, not for Villa. So they were putting in probably a little bit more effort from us, but I think that sums up the second half of the season for Liverpool, to be honest.
Yeah, and I'd argue that throughout the whole season, I think we've been a bit fragile defensively. But let's save that for later in the stream. So if you're new here, make sure to like and subscribe, please, especially to the people on Twitter. If you want to come on YouTube and chat, and of course subscribe to the channel, would be much appreciated. So, Clem, once again, as King said, not a lot to play for. So then, we're not as angry as we would have been in other situations. But time and time again, defensively, it's been hard to watch. And especially tonight as well, even when we were 3-1 up and I was preparing the stream, I was thinking, even if we win this 3-1, it could have been so different. There was the Carlos chance in the first half when they've missed like 2 inches off the line. The game could have gone differently there, but in the end, we went 3-1 up, and again in the last 5 minutes we can see twice. Honestly, I want to say it's been a fluke, but then again, it's been happening all season, really. So for me, I think the only reason why I'm more excited about another manager is that maybe there's some hope there that we can maybe try and build something new manager, the head coach, really will try and build something to be more solid at the back, because we cannot keep getting away with it, which has been proven for the last few months. Now, I know that in lots of matches we've missed quite a lot of chances, right? At Old Trafford against Palace, and all the other matches. But then defensively, it's been all season, really, hasn't it?
Yeah, definitely. I think specifically on the counter, we're very vulnerable, and I think the pace that Villa have obviously hurt. And I'm going to put this more down to, firstly, the in-game management. The substitutions, 4 subs at once. I think you guys will probably talk about it as well. But the speed that Villa have. You take off your defensive midfielder, and and even if it's 3-1, reading the game, understanding they had a lot of chances, and it doesn't take much for them, to get a few back on the counter as well. We needed to play with more control, and I think not set the back up so much with the midfield. Need to hold possession. I think that's what we've struggled with the most as well, holding possession and just careless turnovers and putting our back under pressure. Alisson, he probably saved us 2-3 goals as well. But yeah, like you said, Mihai, just looking forward to a fresh start. It's obviously a very bittersweet end to what was a really exciting season. And Villa were fighting for Champions League, like you said, which is, disappointing. We weren't able to hold them off and end the season with a couple of wins. But hopefully, on the final day, we just have to gut out a win. But yeah, to the back four in terms of them, I mean, some changes need to happen. I think centre backs at our top of our priority list.
Yeah, and it's gonna probably take a lot more than that as well. I've been thinking, I've been checking the standings in 2019. I remember we were so solid defensively. It's almost like a lifetime ago. 5 years ago, when we did not win the league that season, we conceded 22 times in 38 Premier League matches. Now that seems extremely far away, doesn't it? I remember that season. Every time you were 1-0, 2-0 up, it was done. Like you knew nothing else was going to happen. We're going to win that comfortably. And I've seen that this comment from Paul. Would the result have been different if we needed 3 points to win the league? You know what hurts me? I don't think it would have been. I just don't think it would have been, mainly because it's been happening all season. And even when we were still in a title race, I feel that we still struggled massively, and we got away with it for a long time. But in the end, it has a way of catching up with you. So, Race, your thoughts on the game and what needs to happen next season?
Yeah, I don't know if it necessarily cost us the game, like that's what it was, because I didn't think that the subs that came on like were just poor or anything. I just think, I don't know, they weren't what we needed, I think, in the game. Just because you have subs and you have a bench and you have players available doesn't mean you should make them. Like, I don't know, the need to take off, Endo, or to take off, change out some of the guys on your front line, or bring on Szoboszlai and Gravenberch and Jones. Like, I don't get why you have to make that change. I know there's obviously, you're in a schedule, but we didn't play since in a week, I mean, and we only have one more game left in the season. Like, you can kind of play the guys continuously. Like, I don't, like taking Harvey off. Like, it's just, I just question that type of management. It's been, a thing this season of just, either concede first, or we can, give up a few goals and consolation goals. A team can kind of get back into it and get a little hope. I mean, even last week against Tottenham, we're up 4-0, and then they scored 2 goals and they almost scored a third, really, and then that would have been like a real, oh man, what a moment that would have been. But yeah, it's yeah, I'm kind of agree with you guys in the sense that bringing in a new manager, like, is that gonna be some sort of bounce and some sort of fresh ideas and fresh tactics to what we need? I think we do kind of need that, because it's been a thing. We didn't do it today, but kind of conceding first, has been a problem for us in the last few years. I mean, even at the end of the quadruple season, we were conceding first so many times in that run-in. we were just getting, we were just so sharp going forward and had such a determination about us that, we were able to kind of overcome that. And even today, you could argue, the first goal we got was pure luck. I mean, an own goal from Martinez, that was just absolutely poor. And so in a way, we kind of did concede the first goal because we didn't score first. It was Martinez putting it in the back of his own net. And so, we were kind of fortunate there. But yeah, just yeah, it was just disappointing, because we did feel so kind of in control of the game. I felt pretty good. Credit to, Villa for getting back, although their third goal was, kind of a fluke. I mean, it was a terrible pass from Diaby to Duran, and then it just bounced off his shin and went into the net. Like, that was just a complete, yeah, just a fluke thing. But given how the game was going, I mean, a 3-3 result is kind of a fair result, I would say, given that we kind of lost control and just didn't, it was a really kind of a back and forth game. Tremendous game for a neutral fan. I'm sure anyone that would watch would enjoy it. But for us, yeah, it's disappointing, Again, I just go back to the point of, the mentality of things. Like, again, we're nothing really to play for. We're kind of, we lost out in the title race, been like that for a few weeks. You just wonder if the heads have dropped a little bit and the intensity has dropped off again. That's been the identity of this team and what's made us so successful. And so when you don't have that, what are we? What's the thing that we can kind of lean on? And so, and you just go against a Villa side who are fighting for a Champions League spot, which is just an incredible achievement for their club, given where they were, only a handful of years ago in the championship. So it really is, we are coming to the end of the Klopp tenure. It's a disappointing end to it. The only thing is, now we can just kind of for Sunday just focus on, okay, this is the final show, the final celebration of Klopp. We're kind of going to put all of our focus on it. I don't even care, I guess what the result is, just as long as we don't lose, I guess, or put in a good performance. I think that's all we can hope for. The result really doesn't, mean anything, because it's going to be about Klopp. But yeah, I'm looking forward to, not that I'm pushing Klopp out the door or excited that he's leaving, but I think, to look at this in a positive way, bringing in a new manager, bring in new ideas, some new players as well. Defense, I agree, is up there on our list of transfers for the summer. I think the one positive for me, I guess there are a couple positives, but seeing Quansah get a goal was pretty cool. That was a nice moment he had. Really nice header too, just kind of lofting it into the back kind of corner and putting it in. Gakpo, of course, stealing a goal from Joe Gomez almost. Being lucky on that counter there. But yeah, just kind of, again, just it's whatever. We're kind of at the end of the season. I think we're all kind of have a little fatigue from the season. It kind of happens with players and maybe fans as well. We're just kind of like, going through the motions a little bit. But I'll certainly pick myself back up for Sunday and enjoy all of the festivities around Jurgen Klopp's final game.
Yeah, it's interesting to think about it, because then at the beginning of the season, we were doing the live streams. I said that we're not going to be in a title race, and at the end of the day, we were for a time, and up until the 34th game week, really. So I feel that in one way, people will be disappointed with this ending for Jurgen, but then at the end of the day, you kind of have to think about it with the defense that we've had for the whole season. Really, it was hard to hope for a league title, especially against the competition that we're having. So, Kings, your thoughts on the game, and how much more of this can you take?
This game could have finished probably 5-5 or something like that. It was one of those games that it just seemed, we missed a couple offside, obviously, and of course, Núñez was offside. But Villa weren't great in front of goal, even though they scored 3. They had obviously chances as well. So 5-5, 6-6, something like that, it could have finished. And you think, right, okay. It makes me think, same as Ray said, we haven't got a lot to play for. They have. And I thought when Klopp first said he was leaving, personally, I thought it was too early to announce that. Now, the story may have been maybe breaking behind the scenes, and they thought, right, they've got to get out there and say it before it just splashes over the newspapers. I don't know. But I would have personally, if we could have, left it a bit later and then G'd up. Because when he first said it, we went on a hell of a run. Well, if we'd have been in the last 6 or 7 games and still been in a good position, and then he announced it, hopefully we'd have still gone on that run and we could have finished nicely. But it's not to be. I wondered if some of the players, I would have thought quite a few of them were looking at it going, right, they know now, probably, not 100%, but probably who the new head coach is. And you would have thought to yourselves that they're looking at him going, right, we've got to impress him in the next few games, because he's going to be watching these games, either live or he's going to watch them at some point and go, right, that player is good, this player isn't so good, I'm going to move him on, etc. So they're playing for their future, some of them, a lot of them. And yet, I look at them and I think they're almost like they're on the beach already. They're kind of like, well, we've got nothing to play for. We know we can't go higher than third. We can't go lower than third. So it's like, well, there we are. It's just because Klopp's leaving. It's kind of like, well, a bit of a party atmosphere. And it's like, that's not good enough. This is Liverpool FC at the end of the day. You still put that shirt on, you still give your best 100% every time. And some players, I think, have been lacking. Now, I've seen in the comments, some of the suggestions of who should leave, like Salah and Robbo, etc. One I'm going to pick out is Virgil van Dijk. They've said Rock Hudson said Virgil van Dijk should leave. Now, okay, well, 32. I mean, why would Virgil van Dijk want to leave? It's like, just get a decent defender at the side of him, and I think our defence will tighten up a lot better. That's what I believe. Whether that's the truth, I don't know. And that's why I'm not a head coach or a manager. But I just feel some of the players maybe have just taken their foot off the gas, thinking, does it matter now? We can't do anything. We can't change anything in the league. We could have, but we can't now. Is he going to rate us? Is he going to come in and move us on? We're not sure. But instead of playing for their futures, they just seem nonchalant about it and just a bit like, well, whatever will be, will be. And that, in a way, is not good enough for Liverpool FC. So, some of these players need to take a look at themselves in the mirror. And the manager will definitely be taking a look at them on training, and we'll see how things work out.
Yeah, I think we're going to have a conversation about a few players. I have a few in mind as well. And regarding the Virgil van Dijk point, we were doing a poll in the chat a few hours earlier today, and I voted for Virgil as player of the season. For me, I think he's been our best player of the season. If you take it, per whole season, Maka obviously had an amazing run as well. But for me, as the whole season went, I think Virgil was our best player. Now, obviously, you can disagree. It's football at the end of the day. Everyone has different things they're important to them and so on. For me, it's Virgil, and yeah, absolutely no reason I want to see him leave as well. And of course, some of the names that, I don't think, I think it's a bit reactionary now, of course, and I get it. We're all emotional, we're all angry in a way, because what we see, it's extremely disappointing to see the team play that way, and it's the play, it's the fact that we've missed out on a few trophies, and it's all now, it's like, when you're in the club and you're drinking 5 shots and you're going, then the 6th one hits. It's like this. I think it's a mixture of all things now. So it's like that. But yeah, we're gonna see. Obviously, there's gonna be a new head coach coming in, and we're gonna see. It's exciting times, I guess. So we'll see how it goes. Now, for me, one thing that I wanted to ask you guys about, and I've seen the chat mentioning it as well a few minutes earlier. It's Dominik Szoboszlai. When the season started, I remember he was unreal, and I remember calling him like he reminds me of Stevie G. I said that in our chat, and I don't think there was a wild take at the time. I feel like he came on into the league by storm. Really, he was really good, solid, in pretty much every aspect of his game. But ever since the winter, really something shifted, and I'm not really sure about his performances. Now, obviously, it's his first season. For me personally, I believe it takes around 12 to 18 months, depending on the player, to fully settle in a new environment. New teammates, language, and whatever. But it is a bit worrying now, especially because we were so impressed by him at the beginning of the season, and now it's been like this massive drop in form, and I'm a bit concerned. So Clem, your thoughts? do we still have a gem on our hands, or is it maybe a bit too soon to discuss his form?
Yeah, look, it's a real tough conversation because I was like you, I was in the same boat. Start of the year, Szoboszlai is like we got a world class player on our hands, but the important thing to remember is he's still young. It's his first season in England as well, and he's shown us the quality. So you kind of look at it like, okay, what's holding him back? If a player's shown you they've got the quality, but somehow their form drops off, it's got to be a multitude of things. I think how we play as a team, and the chat has mentioned Paul, especially, and I'd love to hear your guys' thoughts on maybe moving towards more of a possession-based style, which we will with Slot, it looks like, with maybe the double pivot. And I think another thing to remember, guys, is this is the first year of our new midfield, so it doesn't change the fact that, yeah, Szoboszlai's form has really dropped off and he's been one of the biggest disappointments of the season. That has to be said. I think, there's been a lot of players disappoint in this run home. Curtis Jones, one of them as well, after, showing a lot of form as well. What do you guys think? Did injuries derail? Did international break really cause a real a halt in our season? Was it something like a lot of football that Szoboszlai is not used to playing? Maybe some of those factors have come in, but I'm really optimistic after a fresh preseason and a new manager that these guys can play better. But he's young and he's going to be here. I'm looking at more of the older heads that might get moved on.
Yeah, it's, to be fair to him, I think the league is obviously a lot more demanding physically as compared to the Bundesliga, and of course he's played a lot more minutes than what he's really used to. So obviously there's that as well. Maybe it's a physical thing. We don't know. Obviously, it's time will tell. It's just that at the beginning of the season we were really excited with him, and his form has just dropped massively, and I'm not sure what's happened. But then, yeah, I guess we'll see. Race, your thoughts on Szoboszlai and his future at the club?
Yeah, I think definitely, as a new player coming in, I think, sometimes I don't want to say rookie because he's a professional already, but like, your first spell with a new team, it can go kind of a beginner's luck almost, where you really hit the ground and like it's just a perfect match, a perfect fit sometimes. And I think he was just it was just a good situation for him. He came in, as our midfielder in our new midfield, and was just a jolt of energy. It was really strong out there. And I think we did, kind of run him into the ground a little bit. I think there was some fatigue that went on that kind of led to his injury, his hamstring, and then we rushed him back from that, and he got injured again. And so you wonder if there was some sort of, it was a muscle injury too. So sometimes those are tricky to come back from. Can you fully trust your body to recover from that? So, maybe some of that affected him. Again, first year in a new league, the Premier League, much more physical, much more demanding. So, hitting a wall, I think he just kind of hit a wall, and just struggled to find form. And I think there is a sense that, is the position we played him in this year, is that kind of the best spot for him, kind of as a number 8, tracking back. I think just kind of keeping him more forward, like in a number 10 or maybe out wide, I think would be a good spot for him. I kind of agree with Paul a little bit. He said, not necessarily a midfielder. I think he can play there, but I think in like a number 10 role, I think he would really thrive in that. He's not someone where you think, always going to play the best ball forward. He's going to have a wide range of passes. He wants to be on the ball and he wants to fire on the goal. And I think he has an incredible shot, as we've seen this year. He's had a couple long range goals and he's not afraid to take a shot. And making runs too. He's really fast as well. I remember he's got incredible pace to him. So I don't know if like kind of a number 8, a box to box possession, like, I don't know if that's kind of the role for him. I think I would be intrigued if we kind of do go to a 4-2-3-1 with a double pivot, him in a number 10 role. I think I'd be really intrigued to see him, because I think that's where he could really thrive. I think, with Leipzig, he was kind of playing more up the field, and that's where, that's what attracted him, to us. He's a brilliant attacking player. I think to push him back and make him be a little more defensive, takes away from him. And yeah, I'm sure he's fine with doing that, and doing all that. But when you're kind of in bad form and you're just not taking on. You just want to do what's best for you. You want to get in those positions. And I don't think there's really a spot for us to put him in that best position. And so I think it's just kind of a combination of those things. I've no doubt I'm not writing him off, anything like that. He's only 23 years old. I mean, he's still a young guy. I mean, the reality is. And so I'm excited to see him. I'm excited to see him for Hungary this summer too at the Euros, because he'll be in such a free flowing role with them. He's the country's captain. So maybe that's kind of the thing that'll kick him on and kind of get him back in some form, and hopefully come back over the summer with us and hit the ground running again, because he's a really incredible player. I think he is one of the highest ceilings of all of our players in our team right now. So, it's just, it happens sometimes with players. It's disappointing. The team overall has been kind of, dragging their feet at the end of the season here. And Szoboszlai has been one of those players, but I'm excited to see what he can do under new manager, what kind of ideas they have for him. And if that number 10 role could really be something that he could thrive in.
It's interesting. You've literally said everything that I wanted to say as well, because then I wanted to mention the fact that when Slot comes in, I know that he sometimes plays that 4-2-3-1, and then I was imagining Szoboszlai in that 10 role, and then he's doing such a great job for Hungary, and he's done it for Leipzig as well, as he said. So yeah, it is going to be interesting to see him there, hopefully to see him there. And as well as you've mentioned, I think another interesting aspect is that indeed, when you think about the rebuild that we've had in midfield, Szoboszlai, McAllister, and Gravenberch are all still under 25. I think McAllister's 24. He's like the oldest out of the three. So then we are, when you look at it in that way, we're pretty settled for the future, especially if they can find form at the same time. But it's going to be a lot to ask for, and hopefully they stay fit as well, because this season has been another injury roller coaster. So Kings, your thoughts on Szoboszlai and our midfield in general?
Well, yet again, I'm sure that race is in my head, because he knows what I'm thinking.
Got you.
I think that, and I just find, yes, he did come onto the scene for Liverpool level, this big build-up. Oh, he's going to be great, and to be fair, he started really well, and it does come down to, I think, a combination of some injuries and the intensity of the Premier League. It's like no other league, this. And I know people say, oh, it's the top league in the world. But for pace and intensity, I think it actually is. Because in Spain and Italy, they play a more technical, slower game. And I think, like French leagues and stuff like that, not quite up to the standard, I don't feel. Bundesliga, again, players come from there, they play really well, not knocking any of them. But, it's not up to the standard quite of the Premier League, I don't believe. Now, in saying that, people could correct me and say, well, look at all the teams that have gone through in Europe, because Liverpool and the English teams have all gone out. Fair enough, I get that. But I think over the whole season, the Premier League is so intense. So a player comes in and it's like, right, like I said, he's only, 22, 23, so he's a young lad. So he's got the energy, but then probably just gets so far, hits this wall, and it's just like, wow, I didn't quite maybe expect that kind of intensity. For his country, he plays 6-7 games a year or whatever, and he goes away, relaxes, completely different, plays a different position. So to him, it's a completely different thing playing for his country. For us, I think you said, Mihai, at the beginning of this part that, sorry, I lost my train of thought as I was saying. He can play really well for us. And I just feel that, that it takes time to bed in. And it does, to be honest. Again, the Hungarian leagues and RB Leipzig and places like that are coming in, nothing like the Premier League standard, really. And I'm trying not to be disrespectful, but we all know the best players pretty much play in the Premier League. And I just feel that given time, he can grow. I mean, if we go back years and years, although he was homegrown, look at Steven Gerrard. He had his injury issues, the curvature on his spine and things like that. And I think it was Gerard Houllier at the time. He was trying to nurse him through, and he was in and out, a bit like Stefan Bajcetic now. It's kind of like everyone's like wanted him to play, but he's injured. And it's like it just takes time for the younger bodies to really adjust to the intensity. I don't know how Slot is compared to Klopp with his intensive play, so it may suit him. And I've said this on other shows, a slight tweak on one or two of the players couldn't get them playing completely different and a lot better. Now, again, unfortunately, you have to do a slight tweak thinking you're doing right, and it could make them worse. But I think overall, a new set of eyes coming in and looking at these players and going, right, well, let's try this. Let's move them to there and see how that works. And then hopefully he's going to get better and better. So I do think he has the scope to be a fantastic player for Liverpool. It's just he needs to grow more into the Premier League standards and his own body, really, like to be fully over the injuries as well.
Yeah, it is. One thing that's interesting is that we've seen this conversation now about Szoboszlai in his best position. How many times we've seen the same topic on pretty much every player in the squad. When I think about it, it's been Cody Gakpo has been playing as an 8, as a left wing, as a striker. Darwin Núñez playing off the left, playing in center. It's so many. Harvey Elliott as well, another one. So many players we've had that they've been playing different positions this season, and it's almost like Jurgen's trying to figure it out, but now it's not as good for them is the fact that we're obviously not going to have Jurgen on the bench next season, and so we're going to have another manager that's going to have to experience and find how the players perform in his system and what's their best position in that system, and it's going to take a while. I think what's important for us is to have realistic expectations from the new head coach. I think we're not going to be in a title race next season, I think, but obviously we're going to have to wait and see. I think as I've said regarding players, that it takes around 12-18 months. It's probably even more difficult for a head coach, for a manager to settle in and to kind of see the best system and the way players will work in that system. One thing that I've seen in the chat and then I want to respond to is this and Anthony Gordon shout. Now, one thing is that I think we probably have lots of players in for pretty much every position in the front three, so I don't think he'd play unless we sell someone. And me personally, I probably need to apologize to Anthony Gordon because I've been a massive hater ever since he's been at Everton, as I probably would guess you lads have been as well. He's been killing it this season, for Newcastle. So nothing bad to say about him in that sense. And you know what? I'd like to mention something else as well. And I don't know if it's a hot take or whatever you'd want to call it, but I think Anthony Gordon should be ahead of Rashford for the England squad. But that's just me. And at the end of the day, I don't care about the England squad as well. So to try and also discuss more positive things, I'm going to ask you lads about thoughts on, man of the match, I'd say, on our best players in for Liverpool tonight. Race, as Paul said, you're a mentalist. Can you guess the player I'm thinking about?
I can't. No, I don't know, because I'm struggling myself with like who I'm trying to pick. For man of the match. I mean, it's not like we created loads of chances. I felt. Then defensively too, we kind of gave up our lead there, and then the midfield was kind of lost control. I was leaning towards Quansah just because he had the goal and he kind of looked all right in defense. It's kind of what I was thinking. Because again, the third goal that Villa scored was a deflection. It was super unlucky on our end. Even the second goal was just a great long range shot. McAllister literally got in front of him and like went between his legs like side. It was like a sideways nutmeg almost. It was just like incredible. Like avoided his legs. But I'll go with Quansah. Just it's just getting on the score sheet as a defender and looking, strong. I don't think he was overmatched or anything like that. Again, it wasn't really the midfield kind of let him down a little bit, in getting some chances and leaving them exposed on the counter a little bit. So I don't think it was that fault. So I'll go with Quansah for a man of the match.
That was the name I was thinking about as well. He's done it again.
Yep.
So it's I think I won't let the fact that we've conceded 2 late goals get in the way of that as well. I think Quansah was great tonight, and I wanted to say I was actually thinking about him before he scored that goal, if you're gonna believe me. But yeah, I think he's been massive pretty much all season, and once again I think he's been our young player of the season really. I remember I was a bit worried because we hadn't signed a center back at the beginning of the season, and I saw him come in against Newcastle. I think that was his debut, if I'm not mistaken, in the third game week, I think. And I remember I was a bit worried seeing Quansah come on because, I mean, who's Quansah? But then what an amazing season for him. And now he's arguably a starter center back for us. But we've seen the Konate shouts as well in the chat, and we're gonna see, if that's the case. So yeah, obviously, as Tanya said, Harvey's another shout. Really, I think I think he's been a bit better in the first half than in the second. But then again, Harvey, at least one thing you can expect from him is that he also gives 100%. That's pretty much all you can expect from. That's all you can wish for, really, from any player. Clem, your thoughts on man of the match for tonight?
Yeah, great shouts, lads. But yeah, a little bit of up and down with Harvey. But yeah, I voted Harvey as my young player of the season because I think he's had so much impact on so many of the wins we've had. The ones where he was coming on as the super sub and that. But yeah, fantastic season from Quansah. Great future ahead, and what a steal we've found. Saved ourselves a lot of money. Not that you or I are saving the money; it's FSG. But today, I want to give a bit of praise to Cody Gakpo. I think he's been one of the best Reds to close the season out, and he was a guy in a position mid-season where he was, absolutely drawing all the abuse and harassment after the Man United first game. I think that's when it really hit fever pitch. But yeah, Cody's, found himself on the score sheet. I think a Dutch manager coming in, I think, the future looks a lot more bright. I think for Cody Gakpo, the way he's finished the season, I would keep him. I would probably move Lucho ahead in terms of my more probable sale. I think Lucho's had a really good spells throughout the season, but he's been really good on the ball dribbling, but we're just not getting the same output in terms of getting on the score sheet. And look, I like Lucho, the person and the player, but I think if PSG or a big offer come, I think Edwards will really entertain a sale on that one. And Cody is the younger player as well, and someone has to slot into that left winger,
Yeah, the thing is, I have the same. I do agree with you, and I have the same opinion. And then at the same time, I almost feel guilty for doing so because you feel like it's unfair to Lucho. He's been so good, and I feel if you want to think about it as in terms of consistency, he's been more consistent than, let's say, Cody or Darwin Nunez this season. I think Lucho Diaz, if you take it for the whole season, he's probably been more consistent than these two. But then at the same time, I feel like both Cody Gakpo and Darwin Nunez have better ceilings. Debatable, maybe. I don't know. It's my opinion. So then I tend to agree with you, I think, and that's gonna be the hot take for the chat as well. I think I'd sell Lucho ahead of Nunez and Cody Gakpo. I know one of those names is going to create some heated conversations, but then I still feel both of these players have a lot more to give us. Kings, I'm going to ask you as well for your thoughts on player of the match for tonight.
There was a couple in my head. I did think of Elliott. As Clem said, he was in and out a little bit, I suppose, so it's not him. But obviously this time I think it's Clem that's in my head because I'm going to say Gakpo too. I think he showed at times tonight he was quite physical on the ball, and I think he's improved since that mid-season. When he went down and his confidence was down. I think he was getting abuse online and everything, and it's which isn't on at all. I've got to say that's not good when that happens, and that's the same for any player of any club. To be honest, you shouldn't be doing that. And I think he's bounced back a little bit, and he's finishing the season with a flourish. So he is one of these looking out for a new manager, and because, as we've said, it's a Dutch manager coming in, he maybe has got the pickup that he needs to go right. I'm going to impress him, but he knows mostly about him anyway because he's from the same country. He's probably watched a lot of him play for the national side, etc. So I think tonight he did well overall. Some of the other players, let themselves down. And like we said, maybe their just head's not in it. But I think overall, Gakpo for me was man of the match, and hopefully he can just keep pushing on from this. Because again, quite a lot of the side is young. Like we're saying about McAllister and Quansah and Szoboszlai, etc., and obviously Gakpo and Gravenberch as well. Elliott, they're all young players. They've all got time to develop more with Liverpool. It just depends over the next couple of years if that's the way the club want to go, or if they want to move them on. I've just seen on social media, apparently Liverpool have earned £190 million in prize money alone this year. Now, whether that's quite true or not, that's a lot of money. And putting maybe some of last year's saved budget that we kind of didn't spend in the end, then hopefully over the summer, Michael Edwards has now obviously brought in Julian Ward's coming back, Richie Hughes is going to be in place, Slot's going to be in. As I said, I think he's more of a coach than a manager, so he's not going to have as much say on the transfers and behind the scenes. But that quartet of people really, hopefully, makes it look exciting, because then the first two, Ward and Edwards, know this club inside out. They know how to get good deals over the line for players going in and out. So I'm just hoping players like Gakpo, Elliott, and all the other younger ones have some real good reinforcements come in the summer, and we can push on from this, because that's what we need to do. No one's expecting Slot to win the title in the first season, but wouldn't it be just great if he went ahead and did it? We'd all be a bit gobsmacked, including the rest of the Premier League, I think.
Yeah, and I'll just quickly add this, guys. I think someone said it before as well, so I want to give them credit. But like Arsenal last season, you might have to come close to winning a title and feel that pain to then go on with it in the following season. And if Liverpool had won the title this season, it would have been a year ahead of years ahead of what a lot of people thought with this current squad. So yeah, maybe they'd back this up next season, and the experience of these lads going through it, like King said, with the young guys, it fuels them for a bigger season next year.
I've seen this comment in the chat as well. I think it's a double-edged sword. I feel like on one hand, if we would have won the league now this season, I think for Slot it would have been a lot easier in terms of patience by the fan base, because then we would have already won a major trophy in the previous, and so people will have a bit more patience with him. Then I think I can already picture it, 6-8 months into the season, if we're not doing well, then people are gonna call for yeah, I'm not even gonna get into that. Hopefully we're gonna do well and things will work out. But yeah, one last thing that I want to ask you lads. We are now into Jurgen's final week as a Liverpool manager, and I think I'd want to give you the chance, in case you won't be on streams this week anymore. I want to give you the chance of naming your favorite Jurgen Klopp memory. And I am not going to go first because I need to think about it. So Clem, unfortunately, you're the unlucky one. I'm going to ask you now. If you can, you can obviously name a few more if you want.
Yeah, no, thanks for the opportunity, because I don't know if I'll be on a stream later in the week, but obviously, yeah, his legacy, his memories will live on forever, and I think the club needs to do something to commemorate, Jurgen Klopp, whether it's name, a future hallway stand, a statue. I'm all for it as well. But look, I agree with the club stance on not doing the parade or anything like that. Maybe a family day would be good in one of the parks or something. But I think there's so many that come to mind. But for winning our Premier League, comes to the very top for me. It was special. The Champions League then second, but winning the title, obviously, and seeing him lift the trophy, was so special, and what it meant to him. And when he sat down and he cried and he went through that interview, and talking about all the former managers and what the achievements still hadn't sunk in. You just know what the club means to him, and look, he enjoyed this journey just as much as we enjoyed watching it, and that's what's so special about Klopp.
Just to give Race and Kings a chance to think about it, I think I'm gonna go, for me, okay, maybe I'm gonna cheat a bit, but I'm gonna name a whole campaign. I think for me it's the Champions League campaign 2017 to 18, because I remember it was in that season. I remember in the group stage we drew Sevilla. I think it was 3-0. And I remember I think we were down 3-0 in Spain. No, sorry, we were winning 3-0, and then we drew the game 3-0, and that was in the group stage. And then I remember when I saw that, it was like, it's the same thing all over again. It's Liverpool doing stuff like that. It's gonna, I can't take it anymore. And then we just go on and get into a Champions League final. And I remember the matches against the 5-2 against Roma at Anfield, and of course the matches against City, where I went into that quarterfinal at Anfield against City, and I thought, if we want to have a chance to qualify, we're going to have to win by at least 2 goals and not concede, because at that time it was the away goal rule as well. And we went into that game, and I said, we need to win by at least 2 and not concede. And I was thinking, yeah, that's just impossible. And then halftime was 3-0. And then it was that season and that Champions League campaign that gave me the belief that, you know what, I may just see this club win something major again. And it's happened in the following season. So I think, I'm getting emotional talking about it now. It's weird. So Race, I'm gonna let you talk until I'm okay.
Yeah. For me personally, it's the Barcelona comeback. Down 3-0 at home, doing that, and of course we had the anniversary this past week about it. For me, that was just kind of epitomized the Jurgen Klopp era, and the never giving up, from doubters to believers, the passion of Anfield, the passion of the fan base. It all just kind of accumulated in that moment. I'll even extend to the Champions League final as well, because before that time, before winning that Champions League final against Tottenham, I don't think Klopp had won a final. There was kind of the stigma about him losing in finals. That record was so poor. And even for him personally, getting over it, that was a big deal to him as well. I remember he was very emotional talking about that. Like he was, getting hate about that and stuff. And so for him personally, that was a huge accomplishment to win in a final. And so it was just a really perfect moment, because, also that week, I think the Vincent Kompany hit that long range shot for City that kind of put them above in the title race. We missed out, and it was a really deflating moment. I think that was it was just an all around just disappointing moment. And then we were down in the Champions, like, oh man, this is going to be a wasted season. We're not going to have nothing to show for. We're going to have 90 some points and miss out. And then we make the comeback without Mo Salah, without Firmino, Robertson coming off at halftime. He's injured. Everything against us, really. And we come out and we beat one of the best teams. We beat Messi. We beat that, incredible team. They weren't, they were incredible. They had star players all over. And so that for me was just the moment of Klopp's tenure. And that's kind of really when we started to, I think just reach another level in the club.
It's also special to me, that Barca win is also special to me for different reasons. So that happened on the 7th of May. Yep. And my birthday is on the 8th. And
wait. Your birthday's May 8th?
Yeah.
So is mine.
No, that's perfect.
Right on. Yeah. I agree with you. I'm with you there. It was special for that too.
Belated happy birthdays.
Thank you. Yeah.
I remember it was due to the time difference. When the game was over, it was like 5 minutes after the game was over. It was midnight, and it was the 8th of May, and it was like the absolute best birthday gift I could have hoped for. So I remember it due to that as well. Kings, with all this in mind, then I'm gonna ask you to name your favorite Jurgen Klopp memories.
I suppose it's nothing against anybody that's saying, the things we've picked out already are fantastic. I mean, never ever going to forget the Barcelona game. That was phenomenal. A game I will pick out, which this isn't my memories, as such, but one of my favourites is the Everton win when Origi, so at the end, obviously Pickford puts it onto the bar, drops in, he just nods it in. Klopp's on the pitch, he's not even out of his technical area. He's halfway across the pitch celebrating. Things like that make him unique, to be honest. But the things that are going to stick in my mind, he's actually quite, I think overall, he's quite a humble guy. And the things that I'm going to miss are the fist pumps at the end of the game. Because I don't expect a Slot to be starting to do that, because it's like, well, you're not going to copy the last man, do you? And just the little things like that, that's fine. And even back to his first introduction to the press and everything, when they said, obviously Mourinho's the special one, and he just turned around and said, well, I'll be the normal one. And to be fair to him, he was so down to earth, such a nice guy. And I think, yes, everybody gets angry at points with the referees or whatever, and you do change your personality being a football manager. But I think to the most point, he stayed pretty true to who he is. He's quite a decent, humble guy, I think. And if you were ever to bump into him in the future, anywhere in the world, I'm sure he'd stop and have a chat, because he's that kind of approachable guy, I think. So it's the gestures at the end of the games, or it's the quotes that he comes out with. Them are the things I will miss from him, to be honest. Picking out special games, obviously, having a front three of Salah, Mane, and Firmino, and playing them, such an attacking brand of football, especially the first couple of years that they had them together. It's like, who's going to forget things like that? They would destroy teams. The game against Arsenal, when we absolutely annihilated them, just blew them off the park quite quickly. So games like that will always have standouts, but I just think his personality for me is just standout. He just seems such a decent guy.
He's been quite the character for the normal one, hasn't he?
Yeah.
So yeah, I think a lot to discuss, and I think the lads from coming on the streams in the next few days will discuss it as well. And with that in mind, it's been a bit more wholesome than I would have thought at the beginning of the stream. So thanks, lads, for all the memories. That sounded like you died. Okay, I'm gonna end the stream here then. Thanks a lot to everyone in the chat. Thanks a lot to everyone who liked, subscribed, and commented as well. It's always lovely to have a conversation with the people in the chat as well. So thanks a lot to everyone who tuned in. Thanks a lot to Clem, Race, and Kings. And we're going to see you again tomorrow or today, depending on where you're from. So have a great one. Up the Reds.
Cheers.